Welcome to my show. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen. The Women's Connection is a program about women who've had challenges and obstacles in their lives, but more important, it's what they've done about it. Today, we're going to be speaking with a young lady who grew up in more than a dysfunctional family, who moved away to heal. Let us hear her story. I would like to introduce Elysia Ives. Welcome, Elysia. Glad you could come here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Let's start with the beginning. Where did you grow up and where were you born?
I was born here in New York City, and my mother and I moved to Florida, Orlando, Florida, where she was born. My great-grandmother raised me for the first 12 years of my life. Private schools, mostly everything that I wanted I was...
The charmed life?
Yeah, I received. Not a lot of connection with Mom and I, a lot of distance. I saw a lot of physical abuse that she went through with men, her drug use, her alcoholism. And
well, why did you move? How old were you when you moved to Florida?
I moved to Florida when I was 6 months old.
Oh.
So I was a baby.
So you really didn't know New York at all?
No, not at all.
Now, what made you move in with your grandmother, or how did that come about?
My mother didn't really like the responsibility of raising me, so she moved in with my great-grandmother. So she didn't have the burden of raising a daughter.
Oh,
it was
nice.
It was more or less put off on a great-grandma, which she did a good job. I mean, she paid for me to go to school, and I think I got a lot of my morals and values from my great-grandmother.
What happened to your grandmother?
My grandmother and my grandfather were there in Florida with us. I saw them a lot on the weekends. I spent a lot of time with them on the weekends and whatnot.
Were you close with them?
More, yeah, they were like the father and mother figures to me, the parental figures.
Well, where was your mother was off doing her own thing?
Doing her own stick, you know, running around, gallivanting around late at night. She lived with us, but it wasn't a relationship for the norm. You know, it was heartbreaking, but she was just out doing her own thing. You know, she'd come in and out as she pleased.
How old was she at that time?
Well, she was 20 when she had me, so about 20, between 20 and 26.
So in other words, she was trying to live her youth and
exactly.
keep going.
Yeah.
Didn't want any responsibilities.
Exactly. She wanted a child, but she didn't want the responsibility of a child.
How did you feel?
I always missed Mom. I missed Mom a lot.
That's going to be rough, even though your grandparents can't take the place of a true mom.
No, they tried. They tried to their best of their ability. There was a lot of the motherly nurturing was given to me by my grandmother. My great-grandmother was more of the caretaker, as in the sense of, here's some money and go to the store and go buy your happiness that way. She didn't know how to show the affection and love that a child needed.
Oh, that must have been rough. But it sounds like you had both.
I had
both
the
worlds.
best of the both worlds. Someone I had a grandmother who loved me and tucked me in at night and said my prayers with me and read to me and helped me with my homework. And I had the great-grandmother who, in essence, spoiled me, which somewhat, you know, ruined things. But
well, where was your dad during this period?
my dad was in Arizona, in Tucson, Arizona.
Did you see him a lot or not at all?
No, I didn't meet my father until I was 15.
What took 15 years to finally meet your father?
Well, I always had that void in my life. Like there was something missing. Was I the adopted child? The closet secret. One night, my mother was very, very drunk, and I said, "Mom, this is it. I need to know where my father is." And she goes, "Okay." And she says the last place we were was Tucson. That she knew that he was there, and she called my father's mother.
Okay.
And like midnight.
Oh, that's nice.
She said, "Where's Elysia's dad?" And she gave the number to my mom, and I called him. And I remember running down the hall. I found him, yelling and screaming because I hadn't spoken to him since, I was 2 years old. Was the last time that he had sent a letter to me.
Wow.
a birthday card or whatnot. And I talked to him, and I guess I startled him because he was sleeping, and he said, "Hold on a second, let me go switch to my office phone." And he got out of bed and went and talked to me on his office phone. And we just had so many questions for each other, But the missing link was like found. It was like the puzzle piece.
Right. How did you feel?
Relief,
Okay.
joy, total excitement. And that was like in June, probably like of '89. He came to visit me in Florida for the first summer. It was like in August. And ever since then, I have been traveling to Arizona to visit him every summer for a year. Every summer for like a week, during my summer vacation.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so we get to spend some quality time together.
Now, do you spend any time with your mother still, or does...
Let me see. My mother's incarcerated at the moment.
Okay.
For trafficking cocaine. And I don't see her that often. I see her about once a weekend. And we don't have a very good relationship. It's like, what can you do for me type thing, because I'm on the outside and she's not.
How do you feel about that?
It bothers me. It bothers me a lot. There's a total void. It's real hard to explain. It's like the fantasy of ever having the perfect Leave It to Beaver, type family.
Right.
I've let go of that and accepted that my parents did the best with what they had. But there's still the part of me that wants a little bit more than what I have.
I think, in many ways, everybody wants a little bit more than what they have, because nobody's ever satisfied.
True.
But what were you doing? Okay, at 15, you located your father, and really sat down and talked to him. What was going on with you? What transpired next? You were in private school.
Well, I lived with my great-grandmother until I was 12, 13 years old. My mother came home from prison, and I decided to move in with her. And I said, okay, I want to be with my mom and spend some time with her. And I also have a younger sister. She's 7 years younger than I am. So I moved in with Mom, and we started using drugs together.
She introduced you to drugs?
She introduced me to smoking pot, drinking, freebasing cocaine. And that was at 13. I was taken away from her by the state of Florida and sent to a foster home for a year. Came home after a year and started up the using, partying together again.
What happened to your great-grandparents?
My great-grandmother had passed away,
Oh.
and my grandparents were like, they were in the picture, but they were to the side. I have a very small family. My grandparents have always provided, paid the mortgage for Mom, brought over the clothes and all that, took care of her. So my mom never had to grow up. She never had the responsibilities of being an adult,
Now, how do you think this has affected your whole life?
I look back on it, I have a lot of abandonment issues because of not having my father around. There's the voids there. Growing up, seeing my mother beaten by men that came in and out of her life. The drug addiction that her and I used together. The alcoholism that she had, the anger rages that I saw her go through, affected me in the sense that when I grew up, I thought that it was acceptable, normal behavior.
But yet you never saw this in your grandparents' house, or did you?
No, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that in my grandparents' home. There was nurturing and love given by my grandmother and my great-grandmother.
So you just came to assume, because this is what was going on in your mother's life.
In my mom's life, that a woman is supposed to be treated like a piece of dirt, and that she goes out gallivanting around in the evening, and she uses drugs and does whatever she has to get her drugs. And today I know that that's not true.
What was the catalyst to make you change or realize that this is not the way it should be?
Recovery.
Okay. How did you get into recovery?
I was introduced to 12-step fellowship in 90, after I got a DUI.
What's that?
Oh, driving under the influence.
Okay.
Drinking and driving.
Oh, all right.
And then a week later I was arrested for underage drinking because of a bar that I was working at. I went to visit my dad in Arizona, and I went to an AA meeting, and I said, I think I have a problem with alcoholism, and I stayed clean for 2.5 years.
Now, okay, let's back up. You were working in a bar?
Yes.
What were you doing in the bar?
I was a topless dancer.
How did you get that job? I know. What do you have to audition? I don't know these things. But I mean,
No,
what made you decide to do that?
Well, when things were going bad for me and my mom, when the state returned me to her custody when I was 15, I moved out and moved in with a boyfriend of mine, and we lived together for a couple years. And when I turned 18, I said, there was a girl in the apartment complex, and she had all these beautiful clothes and rant and raved about how much money she made. And she said, I work at this bar. And I said, great. So on my 18th birthday, my mother drove me to this bar.
Your mother drove you?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And I had worked in the bar business for probably the past 9 years, but haven't worked in it for the past 9 months. I've been out of it for 9 months.
Well, so you went and applied for this
I
job?
went and applied for the job. Was making real good money. I was a legal secretary, making about $250 a week, and that was 11 years ago. That was good money under the table.
Right.
So I made $100 my first night, and I said, "Oh, this is nice."
A little different scale.
Yeah. And I worked in it. The drug scene was there. The drinking was there. At 18, I was leaving the bar at night and going out and using drugs until wee hours of the morning and drinking.
Well, how was your body adjusting to all this? And weren't you concerned about, I don't know, you weren't doing needles,
No,
were you?
I've never,
Oh, okay.
knock on wood, I've never intravenously used drugs.
Because that would be a concern of drug users, I would
Yeah.
imagine. I don't know.
No.
You know, so you did this for 9 years. Did you get your beautiful clothes and have all this stuff?
Oh, of course, but then
Oh.
again, you know, when the drug addiction kicked in, all of the jewelry that I purchased or people gave me went to the dope dealer. I gave 2 vehicles away to drug dealers. I gave a brand new truck away to a drug dealer. Yeah, my addiction took me to what I would describe as a living hell, to where it's things that you only see on movies.
But you were living this.
But I was living it. I hung out with people that sold their bodies for $5 to get their fix. My addiction hadn't taken me there yet, but I had slept with people for money in order to support my habit.
Then you moved on to Arizona to visit your dad after this? Or
In between the period of 90 to 96, I stayed clean for 2.5 years in a 12-step fellowship. Back in 90 through 92, when I was clean, it was I was clean from all drugs and all alcohol and whatnot, and even cigarettes for a while. But I was only like, my alcoholism had progressed a lot because of the DUI and the underage drinking thing, but I hadn't become a crack addict yet. I hadn't used the drug yet. I had freebased, you know, years prior with my mother, but in my opinion, there was definitely a difference.
what's the difference?
What's the difference? It's in the drugs. It's totally, in my opinion, totally 2 different drugs.
Okay.
Basically, they're cocaine, but they're in different forms. You know, the bottom line is, when I became a crack addict, it was harder to stay clean.
Because?
It's just the drug calls you more. It's more of a craving. There's more of the withdrawals. It's like that little demon in the back of your head that says, more, you can just do one. You can just, you know, use like a normal person. And to me, there isn't any way of using normally. It's total abstinence. You know, just one day at a time.
So you got arrested for?
The underage drinking
Okay.
and the DUI was in 90.
All right, and that put you in jail, and?
It put me in jail for a couple hours.
Oh, all right.
And then I stayed clean for 2.5 years from the alcohol and everything. I moved in with my mother in 92 when I had 2.5 years clean, and I relapsed with her.
What made you move back with her if you realized that the situation...
Well, I hadn't lived with her in 10 years. Things will be different this
Oh,
time.
okay.
Things
All
will
right.
be normal. So I moved in with Mom because of a split up with my fiance.
Uh-huh.
We went our ways, and the only place to go was Mom's, so I went back there, and she had been using crack cocaine for probably 6 months, and I hadn't known it. Her mother had passed away.
Oh.
And to the point where she went to $150,000 in 6 months.
That's quite a lot of money.
Yeah. And she ended up getting arrested. I relapsed with her, and I had gone through $4,000 in a month.
In a month?
In a month. And on Thanksgiving Day of '92, I said, enough is enough. I can't deal with this. Mom's going to prison, and I'm getting out.
So what'd you do?
Moved to St. Petersburg, Florida.
And?
Stayed clean for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And because when I had relapsed in Orlando with my mom, I knew that the end was there, that enough was enough. So I moved, and I stayed clean for a couple months, and then I started drinking again, thinking that I could drink normally. 10 shots of tequila is not normal.
No, I've heard people say that 1 shot's too many and 10's not enough. So, I mean, I'm not a drinker because it makes me go to sleep, so.
So I started using again. I started snorting powder cocaine, and my addiction kicked in to where I was smoking crack, and that's when I was dancing again. I had been dancing again. And I met a customer, and he said, will you sleep with me for $1,000? And I said, yeah. Well, I put it off and put it off. And when it got to the point where the bills were getting too much because I was using all of the money that I made at work to support my, cocaine habit, that I slept with him finally, and he gave me $1,200. He gave me a $200 tip, and I felt like the woman from Pretty Woman. And for about 3 months, everything was total chaos. I lost everything. I lost a vehicle, the truck that I gave to the dope man, all the jewelry, everything was lost. I didn't care. The only thing I cared about was that next hit, that next high. And it terminated a relationship for me.
What were you feeling at this time? What were you thinking,
I didn't care.
You didn't
I
care?
just wanted to get high. I think a lot of it was because the pain. Just the reason that I used drugs was to numb the pain.
The pain of?
The pain of the childhood stuff, the pain of just the fear, everything. Just not wanting to feel.
Escape?
Escape. Total escape from reality.
So then what happened after you realized, hey, this is not the way I want to live?
This isn't the way I want to live anymore. One 12-step fellowship wasn't giving me what I needed. I didn't feel like I was at home there. I went to a concert on New Year's Eve of '94, and I smoked a joint, and I said, this is it, I'm going to be clean. And I went into a different 12-step fellowship, January 1st of '94, and I stayed clean for 10 months. And then I relapsed.
What happened? What made you relapse?
Being without a relationship, living alone, and a relationship was terminated.
Would you feel that you're not worthy, that you feel
Yeah,
empty, that you're just...
Exactly. The hole, the gnawing inside, the void.
So you relapsed.
Relapsed for 3 months.
How did you support yourself at this time? You were still in the bar?
No, I had a normal job, but I had lost it when I relapsed. I had a friend of mine who was helping me, who took care of me somewhat. An older gentleman who liked me, who had known me for years, and who liked me a lot.
So then what was the final thing that made you...
The very bottom line,
Right.
when I overdosed, I had overdosed twice in 6 months. I ended up in the hospital the last time, and I thought I was dead. I had a vision of myself. I was running down the street. I'd been on a run for 5 days. No sleeping, no food, no nothing, just using drugs constantly. And I was running down the street, and it was like a vision. I was like outside of my body.
Wow.
And I got on my knees in the middle of 34th Street in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I said, God, just help me. And I went back to the 12-step fellowship.
The one that you liked?
Yeah, the one I like. And that was after I went to the hospital on the overdose. And my sponsor came to get me, and she took me to detox. Well, I detoxed at her house, then I went to treatment for 21 days. And I've been clean ever since.
Fabulous. Now, what about college? Have you gone to college, or?
No, I have an option to go to college. The state of Florida will help me through vocational rehab to go to college.
So are you going to go?
Maybe one day. I'm a little nervous right now. It's like I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Join the crowd. Why should you be any different than the rest of us? No, it took me a long time to go back to college, and I went back and got a degree, and I took a course a semester or 2 courses a semester while I worked full time, and I got a degree. And it was the best thing. It gives you a lot of self-esteem. It's like, hey, I can do this, when you get your A in your class, and it's like, wow, it's like, okay, let's keep going. This is good self-esteem and moral building and everything else. And it's amazing what the world will open up to you. But so, what's your next plans, or what do you plan on doing next?
What do I plan? Going home on a flight in the morning. Right now, I'm cutting hair in Florida. I'm in a relationship, and
sounds like things are going good.
Things are going great. I'm real active in the 12-step fellowship. I have a lot of people around me that are in recovery, and I think it's important. I tried everything to quit using on my own, and I couldn't do it on my own.
Well, that's okay. You've got your support system. I mean, I could never stop eating chocolate. That's my big addiction here.
I've never heard of anybody ODing on chocolate.
Sometimes I do. I get a little sick. But the thing is, you realize the good and the bad side. And it's really good. What do you think is your inner strength that keeps you going on this, to keep staying in recovery?
In recovery. It's my inner strength, just not wanting to give up. It's just my drive.
You think this is your values that you got from your grandparents?
Yeah, it was always instilled in me as a child to never give up, go to college, do the next right thing. I'm learning that today, to do the next right, healthy thing,
Eat right, don't smoke, no?
Well, I still smoke cigarettes. I gotta have one vice. But, I just don't want to die today. I think that's what keeps me clean. There's more to life out there than wasting it away, in a crack house, or for other people that are addicted, in a shooting gallery or what have you. And it's just, I don't want to live in a living hell,
Sounds like it was. I'm sure there's still a lot of people who don't mind living like that.
No, but there's hope,
Definitely.
Yeah. Addiction's a hard thing, but it can be overcome, one day at a time. That's real important.
What advice would you like to give the audience in closing?
In closing. You just don't have to. You don't have to go on like that anymore. There is help. I believe in the 12-step fellowship, and it's not for everybody. Maybe, everybody has to find their own way. But mine is the 12-step fellowship.
So if you don't like one group, go to another one, because there's always...
Yeah, there are many of 12-step fellowships. I believe that you just don't have to go on living like that. There's hope. There is definitely hope for people with the disease of addiction, and addiction is just not about the drugs.
What is it about?
The disease of addiction is just about, I think, everything. I mean, I could be addicted to the drugs and to the men and to the shopping, the retail therapy, I call it, or the chocolate,
right,
or what have you. It's there's just a whole variety of different addictions, but they can be conquered. I believe.
Well, I'll tell you what, in 10 years from now, you can call and say, guess what?
I got my 10-year medallion.
Right.
Yeah. I will, too.
Okay. I'll always be listed. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And Elysia, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
How would you handle your addiction? Thank you again. Please write. I'd like to hear from you. It's because of people like you that keep people like me on the air. Write me, Barrie-Louise Switzen, The Woman's Connection, Ansonia Station, Post Office Box 918, New York, New York 10023. Look forward to hearing from you. Bye now.